So, Ariel, I'm talking to you. You're in Tel Aviv. I'm in Switzerland. And we want to give the viewer a brief introduction to the conference that will be sponsored next year in April in Tel Aviv to celebrate the publication of the Jung Neumann letters. And this is a correspondence that took place between 1933 and Neumann's death in 1960. A very important exchange of letters and views on many issues. It's interesting that of Jung's major correspondences, of which 5 or 6 have now been published, 4 of them are with Jewish interlocutors. And it's very interesting. First there was Freud, then there is James Kirsch, there is Wolfgang Pauli, and now there's Erich Neumann. 3 of the most significant correspondences of all of Jung's, in all of Jung's works. Jewish correspondences. Interesting. So anyway, we're going to celebrate this in Israel, which is very appropriate, I think. But why did it take so long to finally come to the point where this very important correspondence between Jung and Neumann could be published?
Correspondence, which in fact starts 9/11/1933 by a note from Jung to Neumann, giving Neumann an appointment. And the last letter in the correspondence that will be included is the letter that Jung writes to Julia, Erich Neumann's widow, after his death, where Jung describes Neumann as a friend and companion on the way. I hope that during the conference, maybe some of the question marks will be answered. It still remains an enigma, in fact, where the actual letters are today. As far as I know, hardly anyone probably knows where they are.
The physical letters. We know the contents, but we don't know where the physical letters are.
We know the contents, and I think we need to appreciate the work done by the Filmon Foundation under Samer Shamdasani's general editorship, and Martin Liebscher, who has done, I think, a wonderful work editing the correspondence. And the fact that it has taken so long to publish it, maybe it was worth waiting for, because Martin Liebscher, in fact, found some attachments to letters, long attachments that were missing previously.
I see.
Like by his detective work, he managed to trace them and find them in the private Neumann archives.
I was reading one of Neumann's letters today, in which he's responding to answer to Job that Jung had sent him in 1951, I believe, to read and to get some reactions to it. And it struck me how free Neumann felt to confront Jung with differences. He really, he certainly acknowledges Jung as the leader and the teacher and the wise man and so on, but he doesn't hold back at all from his criticisms and his differences of opinion. I find that very interesting and very good that Jung had somebody to give him honest feedback at that stage in his life.
I also found it quite amazing reading these letters, how already from the very beginning, in fact, Erich Neumann, the brilliant young man, he was in his late 20s, and Jung 30 years his elder. How Neumann, in fact, is very straightforward, very respectful of the grand old master, but yet straightforward, not fearful, and does confront him right on about several issues.
Well, that's what makes the letters
quite refreshing.
it's very refreshing, and it makes the letter so interesting because Jung has a real challenging interlocutor, uh, not just somebody who praises him and says nice things to him because he wants to ingratiate himself.
I think I have the feeling that Jung was quite pleased with that honesty and straightforwardness.
Yes,
And I think there is a mutual respect between
yes,
the young
definitely.
man and the older leader of or old master who Neumann both deviates from, but respects and and definitely acknowledges.
And certainly builds on. I think Neumann builds on and builds out and builds further using Jung's basic theoretical positions. Yes. There are many topics that are covered in these letters. Some of them are quite personal, their friendship, their relationship. There's the whole issue of Jung's uh, attitude toward the Jews and what's going on in Germany in the 1930s. There are theoretical issues that they discuss. Among all of these, what do you think are the high points? You've read the whole correspondence, you've studied it. What for you really stands out as most important?
Well, I think it's the tone, the honesty, the openness, the mutual frankness, the friendship, the development over those nearly 30 years of correspondence, with the interval between 1940 and 45 when the correspondence stops. But the issues, certainly the discussion of Zionism, the Jewish people, um, the various aspects, for instance, of the earth archetype. Neumann raises early on in maybe the fourth letter or something, very, very early on, the issue of the Nazis, anti-Semitism, and with their friendship and the respectful tone, there is a lot of honesty and very interesting material.
Yes.
But then the theoretical issues, for instance, around answer to Job and around Neumann's new ethic, the discussions are, I think, fascinating by being both personal and so highly professional.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're going to celebrate this publication. Finally, it's coming to pass in 2014-15. Um, uh, and we want to celebrate the correspondence, but I think the conference, don't you think, also is to celebrate Neumann and bring him a little more into the foreground of the Jungian world.
Yes, I assume that he will. This will be a renewal or allow Neumann to move further into the center of awareness in Jungian psychology and analytical psychology. Um, the idea, in fact, of um, launching this volume and organizing a conference in Israel was the initiative of Ulrich Herrmann, Jung's grandson, who at the time was head of the Jung Stiftung, the
Oh, yes.
Jung Foundation. Um, and that will, of course, be a premiere of doing such a thing here in Israel. And I think that the conference, much of the part of the conference will be, in fact, new views on Neumann's contribution.
Well, there's a lot of excitement about the conference. Everybody I talk to seems to want to come. I don't know if they will in the end, but uh, I think the excitement is around coming to Israel for this. That would be one thing. Can you tell us something about the physical location? What will happen at the conference? Where will it be held, and what will it be like?
Well, we considered a few different places, and Uh, we considered doing it in Tel Aviv as well, um, where Neumann came to live from 1936. He moved then to number 1 Gordon Street in Tel Aviv, which is right at the seafront. And in fact, what maybe is not so well known is that James Kirsch, he lived only what might be 100 or 200 meters away from Neumann, which is an additional interesting aspect, since also the Neumann-Kirsch relation is discussed in the correspondence. But in the end, we decided on holding the conference, which will be in end of April 2015, in a kibbutz about 20-25 minutes north of Tel Aviv, kibbutz Shfaim, which has a lovely campus. It's a wonderful setting next to a nature reserve, very near, right next to the sea, and with beautiful lawns and outdoor setting, with a very suitable conference auditorium and conference facilities. So it will be in a more tranquil setting than the maybe more vibrant Tel Aviv.
And everything will take place on this campus, right? All the meals, people will stay together throughout the conference. They won't scatter the way it would be in a city. People go in their separate directions in the evenings. And so on.
There will be additional facilities nearby. Most people will probably choose to stay at the kibbutz, which has, I think, 100 or 150 rooms. But there will be additional facilities nearby, which people can individually choose from. But all the events will take place at the kibbutz itself, or at the conference center of the kibbutz.
And I think the families will be there, Neumann's children and some grandchildren maybe, and Jung's grandchildren. So the two families will also be represented, maybe for the first time in this kind of a setting.
I think so. It will be an interesting meeting between the Jung family, the Neumann family, and we will also have Tom Kirsch present. So that will add, I think, we will have what I believe will be a wonderful event, which in fact you will moderate. I hope you're aware of that. That we call Memories from My Grandfather's House, where we will have both the Jung and Neumann families. We will also participating at that event will be the grand old lady of Jungian analysis in Israel, Dvora Kuczynski, who is not known outside of Israel, but she is the most wonderful and fascinating person. She was Neumann's foremost disciple. She is close to 90, fully active. She is herself a survivor of Theresienstadt and Auschwitz, and she will be sharing some of her memories of Erich Neumann. So that promises to be an interesting event with the Neumann, Jung, Kirsch family.
Lots of stories will be told, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think the conference will itself become storied. In the future, people will say, I was at that conference. I was there. This is one of those events in the Jungian world that you don't want to miss, I think.
Right, yeah.
I'm really looking forward to
it. So am I, and it's I have found it a great pleasure to work on this conference.
You've done
both
so
the
much.
Both the content of it and the event itself, I think, will be tremendously interesting.
I think it's 3 full days, isn't it? Starts on a Friday and goes through a Sunday evening. So Friday, Saturday,
right.
Sunday.
Yeah, and it will be a
Very
quite
packed
an
program.
intensive, packed program.
I'm sure people will also want to either come early or stay afterwards and tour around Israel if they haven't seen it, the Holy Land for the first time. I'm certainly planning to do that with my family and travel around a bit again and look at the sites. It's such a special place in the world, one of those spots that really is a point of orientation, world religions, world history. And it's a place to come to at least once in a lifetime, I think. And what a great opportunity.
Yeah, we will try to be helpful and both serve as guides and be helpful to the different places.
Yes, and I
Israel,
think the Swiss ambassador will be at the reception, I believe, and welcome.
In fact, the Swiss ambassador, Dr. Andreas Baum, he will host the welcoming reception.
I see.
So the Swiss embassy has been very forthcoming and helpful, and that will be one of the gatherings. There will be around the reception. There will be also a showing of images, pictures, including pictures that have never been shown of Erich Neumann's drawings that have been completely unknown, but that we have received permission to show, to discuss.
Fascinating.
Neumann's drawings from his dreams, some of which are discussed in the correspondence.
Lovely. Yeah. So new things will appear that we haven't seen before, known about, and Jung's drawings and pictures, I guess, will be represented somewhat too. There will be a discussion, I think. Christian Geyer is giving a talk on art, Neumann and art, and Jung and art.
Right.
Yeah.
The Jung, Neumann, and art, the art and the artist will be one of the sessions, where
Yes.
Christian Geyer, as you say, also Gideon Ofrat, who is the most knowledgeable person about Israeli art. He will speak
Nice.
about the great mothers in Israeli art.
Oh, yes. Well, fascinating, Ariel, and we're all looking forward to it. Thank you.
And you're all welcome end of April next year, and we will make every effort to make it accessible, pleasant, interesting, and I want to thank you as well for being such a central part in arranging all this.
My pleasure. Yes, for me it's very meaningful, and I'm sure it will be for all who come, that this will be more than just a conference. It will really be a spiritual event of psychological importance.
I hope so. That's what we are aiming at. And just to add maybe a few of the additional features, we will have Professor Paul Mendes-Flohr, who will deliver the keynote speech on German culture and the discovery of the unconscious, the promise and discontents of the German Jewish experience. There will, of course, be extensive discussion of the letters. Martin Liebscher, the editor, who will also then, together with Anne Lammers, discuss in a discussion moderated by you, Murray, and Tom Kirsch, a comparison of the Jung Kirsch and the Jung Neumann letters. Thomas Fischer, who is Jung's great grandson, will speak about the year 1933, the year where in fact Jung traveled here to Palestine, the land of Israel, a journey of which there is hardly nothing known. I hope that Andreas Jung will share some of the letters, or from some of the letters that have not been published between Jung and about his journey here. There will be a dramatic reading from the letters by John Hill and Paul Bruce. There will be a live performance of parts of the Magic Flute, on which Neumann wrote, and Tom Kelly, the president of the IAP, he will talk about the Magic Flute. There will be a session on Jung and religion, Neumann and Hasidism, chaired by Jerome Bernstein. Clinical aspects of Neumann's work, and Riccardo Bernardini will speak about the Eranos experience in relation to Jung and Neumann. So it will be an intensive program, very full.
And if people want to take a break, they can go swimming.
Right, both in the ocean and in the nearby swimming pool, or take a walk in the nature reserve.
Yes, lovely.